Thursday, the 27th of June, 2024. This is, your Bitcoin update for today. And we're just kind of consolidating within this like small range right now between when we're looking at the higher time frames and what we've seen on the last few months. We have had a situation where basically the last 4 months have just been range bound, all contained within that March candle. So we had the big move up in March that gave us a new all-time high. We then had the move down in April that came all the way back down to the open of that previous month. We then had May, which went all the way back up to the top, almost making new all-time highs again. And then so far this month, we have that double top on the monthly, and we have all the way back down. So every single month for the last 4 months has just been a case of just like trading back through this same range, essentially. When we're looking at the weekly time frame, okay, we can see that that's very clear as well. We can see clear support around here at 60K, where just continuous wicks into this 60K support, and every time has been brought back up, and we're seeing another very similar situation today. Now, we are looking at the potential here for there to be the first, like a weekly close below the one that we put in back on May the 13th. There's not really any divergence forming here, but I think if you're a bull in this situation on the weekly, you'd want to see that weekly close getting back above that 61,500 ideally to stop this from being like, okay, we're closing below where we have significant support, and that could lead us to a trigger back to the downside. But the weekly time frame not showing a huge amount here. When we look at the daily, okay, we had the big drop on Monday, followed by, of course, a really decent bounce on Tuesday. Not the best, all right? I'll go over this in just a minute. We hit the bare minimum for a bounce here. And then, of course, yesterday being a bit of a pullback, I'm expecting probably a bit more like, I think this support that we're currently at right here is going to hold for today. And of course, there is some important stuff coming up a little bit later on that I think has the potential to move markets. So I'll get into that in just a minute once we've covered the technicals here. But yeah, daily time frame holding around here. There is this untapped daily level at 60,200. Okay, but I'd like to see this monthly hold, and I'd like to see us just hold around where we are currently, which is just below that daily open. Let's see if it can start to push back up towards that previous day open around that like 61,800 kind of area. Now I'll drop it down onto the 4 hour. We can see this is kind of what I mean by the bare minimum. So I'll put the volume profile on here, and this is on spot, this is on Coinbase. I feel that that's giving the best read in terms of volume overall, right? The point of control within the Coinbase chart has been reacting incredibly well, as have the value areas. And we've seen another situation yesterday, and of course, well, from Tuesday and yesterday with that rejection off of that value area low, and then that causing this pullback that we are seeing this morning. Right, so first of all, yes, there was that. This is your value area low. It is an area, okay, so you can't take it as an exact level, but 62,350, 62,300 is the range value area low. And it is also the value area low of the VWAP. If we're to go over here, then you can see start the VWAP there, then you've got it, it's an area, still the same, but you see this shaded area, that is your value area low of the VWAP. That's the edge of the first standard deviation, which suggests that your value, fair value for this range is between 62K, right, and 69K, or 62 to 70K, essentially, is fair value for this range. Now, if we're trading outside of that, then it is acceptance outside of value, which could then lead us to thinking that there is more downside that is likely, and we do still remain in a downtrend over the last few weeks. However, right, we did have a decent reaction. We are potentially making this higher low, which we saw back in May as well, after a similar kind of bounce, right? You have this holding of that monthly level. All right, and if we can start to trade back inside value, essentially above 62K, then that means a rotation back through to that value area high towards those high 60s is again quite likely. So from a volume perspective, right, we are rejecting. We're clearly getting some acceptance outside of value, but There is support here, and it does seem to be absorbing the selling. And when you look at all of the FUD recently that's come out, Germany selling $3 billion, USA selling $1.4 billion or whatever it is. Mount Gox is going to start selling $9 billion. USDT FUD. We're getting a big FUD cycle, and a lot of that's come out since this low, and we don't seem to be breaking down any further right now. It doesn't seem that there's the aggression that we had seen previously has started to slow. And if this was going to break further, you would want to see acceleration to the downside. Now we are kind of getting that acceleration, right? We can see that essentially we are in what could be described as that parabolic trend downwards, right? Where we had this trend, this downtrend. Okay, now we are starting to accelerate, and your resistance, as I've just explained, is quite clear here. But unless it breaks down soon, then essentially before you can reverse, right? If you're thinking about a car, before you can, if we're in the car and we're in reverse right now because price is in reverse, you got to put the brakes on before you can start accelerating forward again. And that's the type of situation that we're in now. We are seeing a potential deceleration of the downside. And if that can continue to decelerate and it can hold here, then that means that we can then lead to a reversal in the same way as we saw on these highs, right? It lost momentum, it started to reverse, and then it increases momentum. So you're going from expansion, which is what we've seen, into contraction, which is what we're getting now, and then the potential for expansion, which is often a reversal of that. So that is this, basically. It's a very, very slow day so far today. The other thing that's quite important here, I'm going to remove this so there's a little bit less noise on the chart, is this 4-hour downtrend. Now, 4-hour time frame has been fantastic. And what you can look for, again, is just simple balance to imbalance, right? So you form an impulse down that creates an imbalance. What does price do? Trades back into it, rejects, right? The next move down, okay, you form an imbalance. Where was it? Here. All right. Price moves into it, rejects, and then gets another move down. And then once again here, okay, you form an imbalance. Price moves into it, then rejects. You can't get those closes back above. And then we get that continuation lower. Then you're coming down here. You have this imbalance, and now that's where the acceleration starts. You're not even trading back into this, all right? And then once again, you create another one. You're not trading back into it. You create another one. And then this is the first one really that we had there that then we have back tested, essentially being the first one that hasn't been like often, okay, you've seen with the imbalance created, you trade into it, you reject, trade into it, reject, trade into it, reject. Now this is where we're seeing the acceleration. You've gone into the first one, but now what you are doing is you have created imbalance below because this it was an impulsive move that was down, and then of course it was an impulsive move that was up, and we are trapped between essentially being the sellers, which had the initiative on the entire move down and have not been threatened in any way, because you have aggressive selling here, you have aggressive selling here, you have aggressive selling here. All of those traders profitable. Okay, all of them. You're not getting any acceptance back above, which means that none of these short positions that have entered have to cover. So there's no real reason for anyone who's short to be looking at closing out those positions because they're all profitable, unless you're some idiot that's shorting right at the bottom. Now, what there also is there is a bit of a battle here for the first time, because we saw that after you get a very quick move down, it is natural that there's going to be a bit of a move against that, right? When it's a slow grind, then you're getting this two-sided price action together, and it just means that like bears are slightly outperforming the bulls on each of these lows. But when you have that big move down, that means there's an overwhelming amount of selling coming in. Then once they've basically gone, yep, cool, that's done, you've hit the liquidations, you've made the profit, you've done all of that, then what you'd naturally get is a big imbalance with those buyers coming back in and trying to step in to correct the market and return back towards value. And that's what we're seeing here. So there has been initiative shown by the buyers, and that's created this imbalance within the chart here. And now we're just trading between the two. So I guess I've kind of just, it's because it's fresh in my mind because we've just had a question about this within the live stream. And I wasn't planning on saying this like within this update video. But essentially that's what we've seen on this downtrend the whole way down, is it has been every time we've had imbalance, it has then been that, okay, buyers are in control, it pushes further down, sellers, sorry, in control, it pushes further down, and that's been continuous. So until we start to flip these, right, then we do remain in that downtrend. However, right, at this stage, we do have significant interest in pushing this higher. And as soon, I say, as if we go back up here again, if this does happen, and I do kind of think it's going to happen today, that is my bias. I do think we push back up towards these highs again today. If that does happen and we do get acceptance back above 62K, I believe that we'll clear this and this quite quickly, right? And I do think that sends us to a move back up to 66K, because as soon as you have these sellers, which are probably very, very similar participants, right? Okay, you're compounding onto those shorts and you're just forcing the market down, market makers doing this, or people doing it, or algos doing it, whatever it is that you like to think the market runs on, a combination of all three. Then as soon as those shorts start to cover, I think we lead to the possibility or the probability that we recover this whole move down, okay? Then you're looking at weekend highs where there's liquidity above there. Then you're looking at correcting this final imbalance, and that essentially being the last area where there are these gaps on the chart. Everything above that, this was slow grind, then you expand. Now what you would see if there is, like even if we just return back to value at this stage before another leg lower, you would expect after expansion that this comes back up, okay, trades back up to around that 66, 67K. Then if we are going to get a leg lower, that can happen from there, right? But there's not really like how much the risk to reward for shorts here is no longer really there. You're at the lows of the range. The range has confirmed that there is demand here because buyers did step in. It is more risky to short this, where the downside, okay, it can go to 52, it can do all of that. But why not take your foot off the pedal with the short button or whatever it is you want to do, wait to 66 to 67 and then start to look for shorts again there. That just makes a bit more sense to me. And once you are outside of balance, return to balance. Look at that, perfectly drawn into that point of control. I think even if we are going to get more downside, we are likely to see a move back up to test towards these levels before that happens. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for Bitcoin, right? If, of course, we don't get this scenario where we get that move back down again, then what we have the potential for is to hold back at where we had previously established as support, all right, before this breakdown. And then if this can hold here, then you'd be looking at new highs. So it makes perfect sense to me right now to be looking for that move towards that 66 to 67K here, even if you are bearish overall. Now, if, okay, the market continues to show weakness, and if we lose this area, and I mean, we're right at it, okay, this is kind of line in the sand for me. If we do lose 60K, and I mean, essentially, if we lose 60,500, and we're starting to see 4-hour closes down below there, then, all right, we are still seeing, for now, okay, this is accelerating down, right? And once again, you can go from this high and connect this, and you can start to accelerate down further again, still from here, okay? So you're looking at that like almost like parabolic advance to the downside, which could then send us to 56 to 52 within the next couple of days. But it has to happen now, all right? If we are going to get more downside, it has to happen today. And if it doesn't happen today, then I think a move back up to 66 to 67 is likely, which is my bias. Now, the reason why I think we can see a move up towards 66 to 67 is because we don't have news this week, but there is something that I think is even more important, and that is the presidential debate. So, of course, there is some news today. If we just go over onto this chart, there are unemployment claims and home sales and final GDP. But this is a pretty standard Thursday. Okay, we always have unemployment claims on a Thursday. GDP could move the markets, sure. And then there is PC tomorrow. So there is some news, but it's not like the big CPI, PPI kind of thing. The big news really, just because I'm on this page, is the presidential debate, the first presidential debate tonight. And I remember this because when I first became interested in the markets, that was in 2016. I didn't really dip into them until 2017. I was just kind of interested in them, and then I got interested in crypto in 2017. But I do remember the last time, and this was when there was Trump versus Clinton, right? And if Trump had a good debate, markets did respond very well to that. And it's obvious that Trump's going to absolutely slaughter Biden tonight, basically. And I do think the market's going to really enjoy that. So especially crypto, all right. It's not a guarantee, of course, but we have seen previously in past elections that when Trump has been doing well within those elections, risk assets have been doing well also. And Bitcoin being one of the big risk assets, and of course crypto being suddenly becoming a main topic of debate. So if there are questions related to crypto, and I would expect that there are going to be questions related to crypto, then I think that could really bring some volatility into the market later on today. Now that's going to be, it's quite late, isn't it, US time? Is it like 8 p.m. Eastern or something like that? So it's essentially going to be around the daily open, where we have potentially this big push in volume that comes up. So we'll see how that goes, obviously throughout the rest of the day. But I think this goes towards my macro idea that even if we do get another round of FUD and we do continue lower and there is to be one more sell-off, I think overall, the rest of this year is going to be more bullish than... I mean, it's not cool to be a bull right now. Yeah? Okay? Not at all. And that makes me really fucking bullish because everyone's a bear. And this goes to the same stuff. Like, I was talking... When it was cool to be in Solana and in meme coins, I was saying short this shit. And it's played out. And we're in that, like, the inverse of that, where everyone's bearish, basically. Yeah, the market's dead. Everyone's kind of bearish. Everyone's expecting lower. And if that happens, fine. Okay, I still think that you've got to play the trend. But we're getting to that stage now where you've got to think about, like, where you look at the macro, and I'm going to do another video on the macro. It is just the signs of this turning into something huge. Overall within legacy markets and within crypto itself are there, and this is going to go to much, much higher prices. So I know as human beings, we have a very short-term outlook on price and we want to know what's going to happen now, what's going to happen today. But overall, I'm not worried about this price action at all. I believe that a lot of what's happened over the past couple of weeks has healed the market. We're seeing that a lot of the issues that altcoins have sort of started to settle down. We've seen the valuations have started to cool down and everything. And overall, I think we're looking a lot more healthy on the macro now because of this move. This move was very, very welcomed. It has helped a lot. If we do go lower, great. It helps a lot more. So the lower we go, the more bullish I become, basically, because the more it just gets rid of all the bullshit. Anyway, going into a bit of a rant there, because this is also on my mind. It's something that I want to discuss today. But we'll have a look back over here. ETFs have been chill. they've been super chill. Like there's a small amount of inflows yesterday, and that's probably going to continue. Now, again, what I would expect is I think we may see today and tomorrow inflows starting to pick back up again, because what's going to happen if Trump slaughters Biden in the debate is people are going to suddenly become, once again, very interested in crypto. And I think that tomorrow we could see that this responds accordingly to that. Now, it's just a thesis. We don't know how much the news is going to do it, but it is the first debate. It is going to be significant, in my opinion. When we look at the order flow here, we can see that there has just been continued selling. There was actually a little bit of spot selling this morning, but it hasn't really affected price at all. Maybe this is Germany or USA selling some coins on Coinbase this morning. We did have a bit of a TWAP effect down, but it was absorbed by the market entirely. So I don't know how much that was, but because European markets are open, maybe some of those German coins have been sold this morning. That it was clearly a TWAPy thing. You could just see consistent 100K sell orders going in through Coinbase. So see what happens with that. It hasn't affected the market. So that could be a decent chunk of that German coin or something going on there. Maybe Mt. Gox coins or something starting to be sold. But yeah, it's good because it hasn't moved price, basically. A lot of selling this morning, but it hasn't moved price. We look over here and we can see again. I should have just cleared the notifications. Basically, the notifications were showing that as well. So on CoinAnk, you get notifications of significant transactions, and there was a bunch of selling going on this morning. Then what else do we want to see here? I can look history. Is this going to load up? Is this going to load? No, it's not going to show me the historical data. Meh. Okay, never mind. Ignore that. The drop down, right? It took out most of the long positions. You look at the open interest here, and this is the open interest for the whole range. And what has happened since we had extremely high open interest, around about 45 billion, this is showing on this particular chart, dropped down all the way to 35 billion. That's a nice 30 to 40% haircut on the open interest, overall, the global open interest. And if you look at where this is, right, you think about long positions and short positions opening, that's enough to essentially say all the long positions are out. And when you take this down and you look at the net longs to net shorts here, you can see that net longs have just been crushed, net shorts still starting to increase. So from an open interest perspective, I think we're looking fairly decent here, that if it does start to move back up, that can actually continue to drop the open interest, because we're not seeing too many longs opening within here. This is hella laggy. Let's just change the tick size. There we go, that's better. We're not seeing too many longs opening within here, so it's not really affecting the OI, but that means if we get a move up, it can start to squeeze out the short positions and start to knock a lot of them out. So we can continue to see this open interest drop even if we see a move up, as long as that move up is relatively quick, rather than being like the slow grind kind of thing that we've seen recently. So that's kind of interesting there. What we also have, of course, I share this every day. It doesn't actually mean anything very much, but we are going to be seeing negative funding right now, and we are still seeing that we have this continuation of the spot premium, which means that overall, okay, there is interest and demand for crypto, and the moves down are going to be short-lived, and that the general pressure is clearly going to be up over the course of the next year or so. I still think we're going to go through a slow summer, and then things pick up over the course of the rest of the year. Final tab here is just, I mean, it's a Bitcoin update, but we can see that there's a bit of a mixed bag today. All right, some stuff moving up. Okay, Casper had some good news related to that, with a big Bitcoin mining company saying that they're now mining Casper. The Bitcoin ecosystem's responding quite well. Audi and Stacks, two of them, okay, they got hit really bad recently, so it's like natural that you see a bit of a bounce from there. But yeah, a bit of a mixed bag within the whole market. But I think that's kind of to be expected because we had a big dump on Monday, we had a decent correction yesterday and on Wednesday, and then today we're just seeing that slight indecision. We're resting at support, but which way is this going to break right now? We can throw on EXO and just look at the final levels here, and what we essentially have. I mean, we're very, very balanced. We're trading within value, still from this range. Okay, we're slightly outside of the previous day value area low. We did have an open that is outside of it, so that's kind of interesting. Okay, we did have that. That is the open, isn't it? Yeah. So we did have that open. It is, right? The TPO is being weird. Anyway, so if we can get our acceptance back inside, we do have a previous day point of control there at 61,400, 61,480 being the time point of control, value area high being 61,800. That leads you back towards these highs. We had more or less equal highs yesterday. Okay, the tick size is going to be showing. It's causing a bunch of weirdness because we've had such a big move down that I've turned my tick size up quite a lot. So we're not seeing that we ticked above yesterday. But essentially, like if you got these tick sizes quite high, then we do have those equal highs over there. We've taken out the poor lows from yesterday. We've created a single TPO underneath that. And my point of control, when you make the tick size a little bit more normal, make it onto like 200 tick, which is what I would normally roughly have it around. I've made it freeze. There we go. Then yeah, you can see we did tick above. We had these poor lows yesterday taken out. And then we've got this volume point of control down here at 60K, but we also had that time point of control that was dealt with previously and high volume around there as well. So depending on what exchange you're looking at, the volume and the volume point of control may be slightly different. We may have already come into that and back tested it on that Tuesday move, or we may be looking at that move down towards that 60K here. And finally, is there anything else that I want to share on this? Locally, I mean, we're getting a bit of a move up here. Was there any reason to suggest that that was a decent low that was put in? It's all looking fairly good. Yeah, everything looks kind of fine here. I mean, just looking at it, and on the 15-minute, that's not going to load up, is it? No, we're kind of dead on that tab. So I'm gonna. Oh no, there we go. It is there. Yeah, I mean, we're starting to float up. Are we? Oh, hello, subscriber. Thank you, whoever that was. The alert does work. The alert does work. So thank you for subscribing, whoever did that. We are, chilling. Back above daily open. I would say we're probably around about the VWAP right now. Well, we're right on it. So we're on that VWAP, having reclaimed daily open. You know my bias is that we get a bit of a floaty move up here, and this support holds. We have taken out the lows from Tuesday, which is good. Okay, it wasn't the Tuesday low because that was down here, but we have taken out where we have like a decent low here. Let's see what the rest of the day brings us. I'm going to wrap it up there. It's another half an hour long Bitcoin update. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Bye-bye.